When I was growing up and at the early beginning of my career in this job, there were some key persons in the NDC. If you talked about the NDC or the National Democratic Congress, you definitely have to mention. He rose through the ranks of the NDC governments, both under Jerry John Rawlings and in the Mills government, and even in the Mahama government. He has served in various portfolios. He has attempted to be flag bearer of the party in the past. He was unsuccessful, but he's been with the National Democratic Congress. With some 30 days to election 2024, we've invited this gentleman to have a conversation with him about national issues and even international issues, because he's held portfolios in that regard. My name is Umaru Sanda Amadu. You can call me the Cowboy Journalist, and you're welcome to Face to Face. I introduce my guest when we come back. My guest is a diplomat or someone in the diplomatic space, or once was in the diplomatic space. He's a politician. He's a former Minister of State. Honorable Ekwow Spio-Garbrah. You're welcome to Face to Face.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
By God's good grace, very well.
I always remember you as it's Spio time. I mean, I remember encountering you in Jerry Rawlings' house many years ago. I think it was 2012. And you said, what time is it? It's Spio's time. So anytime I hear your name, that's what comes to mind.
That is true.
How is
this time? Is NDC's time.
It's NDC's time.
Yes.
How has Spio been?
Well, Spio has been pretty good, by God's grace, very well. And a few personal tragedies of different kinds.
Wow.
Deaths in the family. A niece died only last week.
Uh-oh.
Challenges of one kind or the other. On my farm, where we've been trying to practice some modest agriculture over the last 25 years, difficult to make any profits, no help from the public sector, the government, and prices of everything rising astronomically for all of us in Ghana, and equipment for farmers, very difficult to maintain. We are all struggling, all suffering. I think the Vice President would have a good slogan at this time. Farmers are struggling,
Ekwow Spio is suffering,
Ekwow Spio-Garbrah is suffering, and nurses are screaming, and housewives
Everybody
are complaining,
is suffering.
And presidents are doing funny things.
Interesting. My condolences on the losses in the family,
yes,
but
please.
On the losses on the farms, could that not be a failed legacy of yours? You were once Minister for Trade. Your duty, go hand in hand with the Minister for Agriculture, was supposed to have a conducive space for us. So you should be taking the blame for your own.
Yeah, of course. Nobody can blame others for everything that happens to them. So I take some of the responsibility, as any leader should. But if you are living in an environment where you cannot tell what the price of any commodity will be from one day to the next, or from 1 year to the next, what kind of planning? Ask any of the financial institutions, all those who are involved in any kind of planning. If the Cocoa Marketing Board, which is one of the biggest agricultural sector institutions in Ghana, can be a bankrupt institution at a time when they should be able to raise $1.5 to $2 billion on the international markets. They are not able to raise any money at all. And then they come out, I think, in the newspapers to give the impression that they found some incredibly unique domestic way of raising funds, which nobody knows about. You can tell the fact that it's not just the farmer, because it's okay to blame me as a farmer, even though I don't farm as a profession. So that's one of the best rules of farming, that to succeed as a farmer, you must be living on the farm. So there are many weaknesses of anybody who does farming, which you can point out to simply by the fact that, as I said, I'm not living on my farm, and the workers there are not owners or part owners. So these are things that structurally makes farming difficult. But beyond that, there's the macro aspect of the farm operations, and people are in any kind of farming, whether it's, I have 3 crops, I have, I grow a lot of cassava, I grow pineapples,
why are you doing this? Where's your farm?
Along the road to Winneba.
Okay.
So it's not too far from Accra. But farm gate prices, the inputs, the cost of, chemicals, agrochemicals, the cost of fertilizer, the cost of, weedicide, insecticide, these things are very expensive. Even just cutlasses, there's ordinary cutlasses for those, and even the tractor that you have, if you have one. That's why the NDC intends, through John Mama's program, to have a farm services company that will provide services to farmers. So before you start planning your farm season, and you know that you need the following kinds of inputs, you need tractors to help you with, plowing your land and harrowing and all that. you can go to the farm services company in your area and seek help with all kinds of funding and financing arrangements that NDC will put in place
Doc,
to make it easy for you, the farmer.
Agric is a major sector for us as a country,
Yes.
and with what we saw in the early 80s, 81, 82, 83, and the challenges that came from there, we could have said never again. And
Never again meaning
never
what?
again should we go through the challenges in terms of agricultural challenges as we've gone through in the early 80s.
Very
We should
true.
have learnt a lot from there.
Right. Yes, please.
Your party has been the longest serving party, whether as military rule or democratic rule in this
Correct.
country. Many people would say the structural problems that we face with now are structural problems that you should have fixed at the foundation level. What do you say to that?
Well, the Rawlings regime, of course, had a lot of, improvements in the processes of agriculture in terms of the president himself, if you remember, went and carried cocoa bags on his back.
Rawlings, you mean?
Rawlings. As a way of, letting ordinary Ghanaians understand that farming is not something that they should shun, and that even the head of state could get involved in the process of evacuating cocoa from the farms in those days when there were a lot of difficulties in the country as a whole. But the road networks that the NDC has put across throughout the country, electrification, which is all very important to farmers, not only for their individual farms, but for their children's education when they come back from school to read and write, the telecommunications infrastructure that we all put in place. I was part of the process of networking the whole country, even allowing farmers to see your radio and TV stations in their various respective regions. So the work of improving the livelihood of rural people and farm workers is a big subject. It cuts across all these sectors, as I said, in terms of infrastructure, roads, equipment, financing and funding. And so NDC did its part. MPP may also have done its part at different stages. But as I say, the structural problems are not just Ghanaian only. It's all over the African region. But as a former ambassador to the United States, let me share what America does for its farmers.
Okay.
First of all, America may be the world's largest producer of most agricultural produce. But remember that they had free labor for almost 300 years through African slave labor being supplied to their farms. Remember also that they had free land by way of the fact that they just chased the Indians out of their reservations and took over the land. Now, if we go back to our basic economics of land, labor, and capital, and then maybe technology being the main ingredients of any economic activity, and a group of people, that's a whole country, get their land almost free, their labor almost free, it doesn't surprise us that today the United States has only 2% of its population in agriculture, but is able to produce enough for all the 98% and for a lot of the rest of the world, just because of that historical injustice and that structure. And so if you come back to Ghana, you find similar scenarios as well.
Your successors in government introduced what they call planting for food and jobs.
Many slogans.
They've also, at the Trade Ministry, introduced a number of policies. They said, for instance, they were going to move us from taxation to production.
Correct.
They said they are doing one district, one warehouse. They are doing one district, one factory.
Yes.
All these plans that they
Slogans.
had, these policies that they sold to us,
Yes.
how come they have not fixed our agricultural and production problems or trade problems?
It's easy to make these statements, but when your fundamental philosophy as a party is negative in terms of, especially the achievements of others, so you don't want to acknowledge anybody's achievement, you do not even mention anything that happened before 2017. In almost all government documents, if you go to any event, like Ghana started this life in 2017 because the incumbent government does not want to appreciate things other governments did. So if you start with that, you have a problem. So you see a Commander Sugar Factory, agriculture, under my ministry.
You left that
which
behind.
we built, constructed, sugar cane was crushed, brown sugar was produced. Under my supervision, hundreds and thousands of farmers were bringing their sugar cane to Commander in trucks, were being paid to incentivize them to buy more, to bring more. But you decide that you don't want to have anything to do with that particular factory just because if it succeeds, then it gives, in their opinion, credit to another political party. So you leave it to rot. And that's the only factory they left to rot. If you're old enough, you know about the Nkrumah regime. When the Nkrumah regime was also overthrown by the same people and their fathers and grandfathers, They also left most of Nkrumah's factories, this time factories, to rot just because they didn't want to give the slightest credit to Nkrumah as a good leader, which now all young people in Ghana know that of all the leaders that we've had, including the president, head of state, Nkrumah was the best of them all. One, apart from his vision for himself, for Africa, he was also not a thief. He didn't steal anything. Not one single shoe or single pen of Ghana was found with him and his family. I mean, all the land that, all the bungalows he lived in or state houses, never were in his house, or in his name or his family name. He just came to serve. And he had nothing for himself or his family. That's the record of Kwame Nkrumah. And then I found President Rawlings also attempting to live up to a similar example. That's what I told you about his cocoa carrying experience. And then Professor Mills, also very selfless, good public servant, also trying to live. You always have to try to live up to that example. And President Mahama tried to do the same. But when it comes to the NPP time, if the difference between NPP and NDC, which is very, very important for our audiences to appreciate, is that NDC, and this using this Nkrumahist line of thinking,
leftist.
Well, they'll say we are left of center, social democrats. We come to build. We are not selfish. We are reasonably selfless. I mean, it's difficult for many young people to understand that. But we're reasonably selfless, not trying to do things for ourselves, but for our community and our society when we get the opportunity. So we come to serve as selflessly as possible. And so the leaders I've mentioned served selflessly. But now if you look at the MPP leaders, even the ones now, and what they've done for their children and their family members and the Japadia and all that mess, it tells you where their minds have been. That's why Nkrumah's legacy of agriculture, they had the Farmers Council, they had the Workers' Brigade, Builders' Brigade, all these institutions which the CBP, the NPP and their adherents allowed to go waste or to,
Let me press you a bit on the Commander Sugar Factory part. Yes. The argument is made that it started at, or it was with a faulty start, and that's why we are where we are now. And that when you were there, you imported sugar and came to process it here to make you happy, and that there were no outgrowers, there was no raw material for running the factory, and that is why. With due respect, didn't your team come to the factory on the day of the commissioning? Yes, we did.
Didn't you see the factory working?
The government currently says that it was not a sustainable enterprise that you left behind. That's why they are struggling.
They have to create any reason to, explain why they just don't want to let the factory run. For example, the hospital. Let's change, just briefly, move to another sector. Let's say the UGMC, the University of Ghana Medical Center, which was built, pristine, like state of the art. How many years did it take for the MPP government to operationalize it? Because they didn't want to operationalize it until COVID struck, and they had no choice but to start putting their own ministers and other so-called VIPs there, because it was built by another government. So they wanted to let it stay like that. I think Captain Smart and other people have been to places, a whole fisheries university in the central region, which people have never heard about. I hope you have heard about it. I hope your cameras have also captured scenes there. Why is that university being left in the bushes for 7 years? And there are many, many other installations of Ghana which were made for all Ghanaians to enjoy.
You know Akufo-Addo. You have been in government since the early 90s.
Yes.
You've known Akufo-Addo when he was fighting against your government at the time, Jeremy.
Including VAT.
He fought against VAT. Yes. He said to us he's going to move us from taxation to production.
Yes. Those slogans.
What do you think went
Ghana
wrong?
Beyond Aid.
What do you think went
because
wrong?
They never believed in it. You see, they believe in the
But he was a guy that everybody celebrated. He's a human rights advocate.
Human rights
he was leading democracy campaigns.
He played a very nice, what some people say, con artist game on Ghanaians because he speaks well. He's been educated in England, so nice English language, and a lot of nice rhetoric. In other words, but even the first sign that there's a problem here is when he plagiarized, big word, stole the language of former presidents of the United States at his inauguration. That's the first sign that, hey, somebody coming to steal things. He has never apologized for that. Using other people's words, any examination anywhere, you fail. And he has problems with his examinations in the past.
I have no idea.
So research it. I don't want to get into too much personal stuff. But yes, So plagiarism of other president's speeches, which sounded as if they were his own until they came out and we saw that, oh, these were not his own ideas. Then Ghana Beyond Aid, nice slogans, but now we are more indebted than ever before. So Ghana Beyond Aid, and you are borrowing more than ever before. So how could you have a policy of Ghana Beyond Aid, then let your finance minister, who was benefiting from every bond issue that was made under his tenure, and also then saw bankruptcy to the point where, pensioners could not be paid their pensions, and people have just died recently, including my good friend, Dr. Ajekum Ado of Kama, who made a video, well, he was televised, talking about how his life had been messed up. And many other people, many pensioners, he claimed that over 700 of those pensioners have died.
Yeah. They pushed back and say that they were doing so well between 2017 until 2020, when what happened, and that we should celebrate them, and that
Russia,
if
Ukraine
they were
war.
not the ones in power, and COVID and Ukraine came, would have been in a far worse situation.
So are you still paying COVID levy?
Yes, we are.
Why are we still paying COVID levy? In Ghana, we are the only ones paying COVID levy. No other country pays
Possibly
COVID levy.
trying to make sure we come back to the level we were.
I know you are being creative, but I mean, the COVID levy, I'm sure you were one of those who investigated where the money was going in the COVID levy, which we are still paying to send family and friends. And the people at the airport who have been given all kinds of contracts.
Yeah, but you cannot underestimate the global impact, and for that matter, the local impact of COVID and Ukraine.
There was global impact. In everything, there was global impact. There was national impact. But I'm saying in between all of that, there was stealing of the COVID funds.
But they say that the loans
NPP,
they went for...
NPP officials came and announced themselves how much they got. They as chairman, regional so-and-so, for MPP, got this from COVID funds. They came and
they said the loans they went for was not for them to chop.
Of course, that was not what IMF will give you a loan for. That's not what the World Bank will give you a loan for. But that is what they contrived to use the loans for. The loans were for proper things.
They say that in 2014, you had a mere Ebola, which didn't even hit Ghana, and you were complaining, and you didn't do so well. They have COVID. And the
Did
president
anybody chop any Ebola funds that you are aware of?
The president said...
Did you hear of Ebola funds being chopped?
I don't remember.
No, there was no Ebola funds being chopped. You remember?
The president has said he knew how to bring the economy back and not lives. And they say that so far they're doing a good job at that.
That's why the vice president, who wants to be the president of Ghana, what do you say? When the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you, right? That's the vice president's
They say the rate at
policy.
of depreciation now is not the same as the rate it was at your time.
When we left office, it was 4 cedis to $1, and now it's 17 pushing on 18. And so what depreciation rate are they talking about? That's any market one. These matters go beyond intellectuals and professionals talking on TV to ordinary market women who buy tomatoes and buy ginger and buy fish every day. All of us who buy wache and konkekena and whatever it is we are buying, we are all aware that food price inflation has gone through the roof.
But talking about the ordinary people, they are also the beneficiaries of the free senior high school. Hundreds of thousands of children who would have otherwise not made it to secondary school are doing that for free. Clearly, that's a huge feather in the cap of the government.
No, the government takes some credit for that.
A lot of credit, if not the whole credit.
As much credit as they want.
Yes.
The voter will decide whether the fact that I have free, so-called free senior high school for my child outweighs all the other problems of Ghana, including the water bodies that are getting dirty, and they're all drinking the water bodies now. Children, fetuses that are, babies that are being born without an ear, without a head, without whatever it is, based on, mercury and other, various chemicals in the water bodies. Voting in any election, United States, Europe, Japan, is not everything black or white, to be fair. So there will be things that the government has done which the population will give them credit for and appreciate it. Oh yeah, they built a road here. Why not? Yes, good. They built a clinic there. They will. Because the public funds have to use for something anyway. It's our money, our money. It's not any so-called government money that is used for all these things. It is we, the taxpayers' money, which governments collect and then go through the parliament and allocate it any way they want. But governments can allocate those public funds in a rational, sensible way, which we can all appreciate, or they can dig a big hole in the center of Accra for a cathedral that does not exist. And then they would have spent $58 million in doing so. the biggest hole in the ground, which should be a national tourist attraction or international tourist attraction, currently is there for all to see as an example of a man's alleged vow to God. In my church, Action Chapel, only this past Sunday, the message was about vows. They didn't know I was going to come on this television program. It was about your vows. And the vows the president made to God is that
pledge.
A pledge. If you make me president, I'll do so and so for you. And I will not use public funds because I'm a public servant. I can't use state money. Did he live up to that vow?
But sir, despite all the issues you raise now, you do recognize the fact that free SHS is a game changer and it may well positively affect this party.
The Constitution of Ghana, when I was a Minister of Education and before that, requires all governments of Ghana to provide a free, compulsory, universal, basic education. So we called it FQ during my time. And President Mahama and President Mills, when they were in power, also introduced many innovations which were free into the senior high school system. But to be fair to the present administration, it is they who coined the free SHS language, slogan, promoted it nicely, won an election.
At the time, your side said it was impossible.
No, our side didn't say that. It's not President Mahama who said that, but other, I mean, in the political party, there are many voices, many voices. So depending on who you are listening to, you may say that all NDC said this, all NDC said that. No, all of NDC did not say, I certainly did not say as a former Minister of Education that free SHS either is impossible or it's not a good idea. We said it would be difficult to implement based on the way they were approaching it, where they wanted to approach it one time, the first year. They said,
but they have done it to the glory of the Lord. Good Lord.
No, they did it very badly. They've done it very, very badly and shoddily. Yes, people are going to school.
In fact, one of them have said to me that it's better for people to be educated under those harsh circumstances or conditions than not to be educated at all. Do you agree?
That's a philosophical question that we can't debate fully today. There may be arguments for that, but I'm saying that some other people say that being miseducated actually can be a worse form of education than nothing at all. So it depends. But yes, they produce the free SH system. They made a lot of children who may not have had a chance to go to school. But John Mama was preparing for that anyway by building those E-blocks. During this time, the people who were going to school were not the ones who were subsequently admitted. So he was preparing for the future. Over 200 E-blocks that he wanted to build. And I think 100 and something were actually built and eventually commissioned or used. Some are still struggling in the bushes somewhere where MPP may have chosen not to put them across. And they have also built their own of different designs. Any investment in education is fantastic. I support all investments in education. And even though I'm not a Minister of Education, I spend a lot of my time with my own African Business Center for Development Education, ABCDE, promoting all kinds of educational endeavors. So I'll be the last person to fight against any good education endeavor. As a matter of fact, the Ghana Education Trust Fund was an instrument to help everybody, which I, by God's grace, had the pleasure, the privilege, and honor to bring into the Ghanaian system.
Very well.
It wasn't a cabinet instruction to me to create a GET Fund. No. I was never instructed by President Rawlings to create GET Fund.
So GET Fund was your initiative?
Absolutely. As minister, yes, ask anybody. As a Minister of Education, I called a National Education Forum at the International Conference Center. And all kinds of people came. The entire student body, I mean, all teachers and students, representatives of the education system, all came there. President Rawlings also came and delivered the opening address.
This was PNDC era or NDC era?
NDC era. When I became minister, that was 1998, 1989. 1998, that was the first 6 months, I did that forum. So the ideas from that forum and many other recommendations of many committees that have been set up in the education sector before my time, I read all of them and I've been capturing the idea of it would be good for Ghana to have a fund, a trust, a fund, many different words, partly because Kwame Nkrumah had established the Ghana Education Trust, GET.
Which created my school, Tema
Very
Secondary
good.
School.
So those schools all look alike. You see the architecture, Tema Secondary School, maybe some of the schools in Cape Coast, Winneba, etc. They have a similar architecture. Accra Girls. So those are the Ghana Education Trust schools.
Okay.
But since Nkrumah's time, there have been no other
So
fund.
you did then the GET Fund, which is what we have today now.
Which exists today. But then this government has collateralized the resources of the fund, which should come straight to education and giving it to a Chinese.
Very well.
Based on a Chinese loan.
This is Face to Face on ChannelOne television. My name is Umaru, Sanda, and my guest is Ekwow Spio-Garbrah. In fact, he was ambassador to the United States. It's election night in America. I'll ask him who his money is on when we come back. Plus, when it comes to it, what is the difference between Dr. Bawumia on the one side and John Mahama on the one side? Why should Ghanaians choose which of the two? I'll ask him that question. Please stay with us. Yeah, welcome back. This is Face to Face on ChannelOne television. My name is Umaru, Sanda. Amadu. My guest is Ekwow Spio-Garbrah. We've talked briefly about some of the things that they've done in the past under the Rawlings government and even under the John Mahama government, and I mean the NDC. Now we are looking at December 7th, some 30 days to the election. We have a choice as Ghanaians between a sitting vice president and a former president, just like the United States of America also. They have a choice between sitting Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. I'll ask him about America because he's been there for a number of years. But before then, let's do Ghana. What are the two choices, do you think, between, so what do the choice Bawumia and Mahama represent, and why should Ghanaians choose your own?
I think the choice for Ghanaians in this 2024 election should be a very clear one. And I'm saying that it's not only about the persons that you've mentioned, but the traditions that they belong to. That's why I had to go back to Kwame Nkrumah's era and to point out to those who may not have that long-term historical perspective that the NPP in general have not come to power to favor the people's needs and requirements. They've come in general to look for their own personal, goals, ambition, satisfaction, wealth, and greed. So there's a lot of that amongst them. The factors we can't get into today fully. So that's one of the areas of demarcation which Ghanaians must take into account. So for example, even though Mahama was president and MPP called him all kinds of names, he has stolen this, he has taken this, he said this in Dubai, so and so. When he came, he said, look, people can bring proof. Where's the proof of all those things that they claim he has done wrong? And up till now, nothing has come against him that will demonstrate that he was either an evil person or he was a criminal person or was a thief in any shape or form. So that's just one part of the behavioral aspect of leaders, because you must look at leaders and see what they are made of. Now, the Mahama's infrastructural achievements, I mean, of course, Bawumia would say he was only at the planque.
He said he was a mate.
Yeah, mate. He was not a driver. So you can't.
Which is true.
So you can't blame him for the accidents that the car his boss has been driving has had all over the place. So many accidents. They are hitting things left, right, and center. Fine. It's his boss that is responsible for it. But his boss chose him specifically and maneuvered him into that office against the tradition or the flow of the politics of their own party. You know, for example, that Alan Martin was the high apparent based on Akufo-Addo's own promise to him in the 2009 or so elections in MPP, where Chamatin could have stood his ground and gone for a second round and all that, and he pulled back, believing that he's given his senior brother the chance to go, and when the next opportunity comes, then he will go. And that is what has led to that friction, or that, not just friction, but
the severance of the party,
the breakup in some people.
But is that not similar in your own case in so many ways? You were the heir apparent after Atta Mills.
I haven't broken up from my party.
but you haven't been given the torch of the party. You're not a torch bearer.
Yeah, because I believe in Mahama's leadership. I'm the only person who has had the opportunity to work with President Mahama at 3 different levels in his professional career. Once I was his boss as his minister. Then next I was at par with him as
cabinet minister.
Colleague cabinet ministers. And then I also agreed and accepted to work under him
as a minister.
So that tells you the nature of the relationship that we have. We have mutual respect for each other. And I respect him as somebody who, even though I wanted to be president at that time, he was a better candidate. And the party chose him. And I've respected it, and I've supported him, and I'm supporting him now.
You are supporting him, are you?
Of course, otherwise why am I here?
We don't. So many would say, we don't see Ekwow Spio-Garbrah on the campaign trail.
You see me here. It's not the campaign. People think everybody must be on the campaign trail. No, the NDC has broken the campaign into a number of critical and specific areas. So the President Mahama has a campaign team that he moves around with. Then Nana Jane, the running mate, also has a campaign team that she moves around with. Then the chairman, Asidu Nketia, has a campaign team that moves around with him. And then former chairman, Asidu Nketia, and then a few other people also have little campaigns that they have. Then, of course, the parliamentarians have also their campaigns that they run.
Which one are you running?
But I'm running the media. I'm part of the media team, if you like.
Okay.
So I'm here partly because I'm part of the media.
So you're projecting the... So...
You are looking at people's strengths. Those who are in charge of security. You don't want them to come and be parading their guns or armory in this place. So they are playing that part. So they are part of organization. So they're organizing things from behind the scene.
So you're part of the team that is working to get Mahama elected.
Absolutely.
Does he seek your views? How often do you hear from John Mahama where he wants to know, you have been trade minister before. I'm thinking of ABCD, for instance, the 24-hour economy. What's your view on 24-hour economy?
My view is that one of the best ideas that ever came out of the NDC is the 24-hour economy.
NPP says it's not clear. You are just brandishing a
They will say
slogan.
that because their slogans have not worked. You yourself said one district, one factory is only partially successful because they used other people's factories and presented them as their factories. One village, one dam. The dams are not nowhere to be seen. The northern sector, who were expecting dams, some of the chiefs have come and been very angry that the dams that they dug were just holes in the ground, you know, that have been filled by mosquitoes and by other insects. But going back to the Mahama administration, he's able to reach out to many of us, not just me. It's not a personal type of, relationship or wisdom sharing. He listens widely to a wide range of ideas, and we have a campaign team of very smart and capable people, and who give him and the campaign a wide range of advice on almost all the critical subjects. He's highly interactive, so he's met with the energy sector group, he's met with fintech companies, he's met with diplomatic missions representing different countries. He's constantly on the move, and so through those mechanisms and through occasional WhatsApp and other exchanges, he's very able to know what is going on in the country.
So you're telling me about...
And if you're still comparing him to the other candidates...
Yes, the two choices.
Respectfully, Mr. Dr. Bawumia, unfortunately, he has made so many promises that turned out to be false.
He has said that he's never been president before. He's been vice president. He has listed over 30 interventions that he has brought.
The fintech.
Yeah, so many fintech. Yeah,
so
he said that...
Yes, he doesn't talk about the economy.
But he
was brought by President Akufo-Addo as the whiz kid on economic messiah.
He responded to people like you. He said you are the impossible mindsets people who say that... In fact, he says a leader in this 21st century who does not think that digitalization is connected to the economy ought not have the mandate to run.
Is he going to talk to the person who was the first Minister of Communication in Ghana? Is that statement addressed to me?
Well, it's addressed to people who say that he has run away from economy and doing digitalization.
I've done digitalization myself. I became Chief Executive Officer of the Commonwealth Telecommunications Organization, the first African CTO to get that position in 100 years. I was there for 8 years. You think I don't know digitalization? It's just that we did not sloganize our programs in the same way as NPP are doing. And secondly, his digitalization is coming 20 years after the digital revolution began during our era. I was the first to give licenses to many, TV and radio stations in those days. As the first chairman of the National Communication Authority, first chairman, I could have given 30 licenses to myself and my family and kept them in a box, waited for 20 years and made money from it. And that's what I'm saying. That mindset is not what the NDC stands for. We are not there to steal the public purse. The president of Ghana said, I'll protect the public purse. With Mr. Dr. Bawumia next to him. Have they protected the public purse? They've looted the public purse. That's what they've done, looted. Everywhere they steal anything they can
Bawumia said he's never been president, which is true.
No, we know all of that. And he will never be president if he continues like that.
Why?
Well, his own party should make him president if they can. They will not make him president this time. And if they go to another election in that party, well, if Alan Chamati wants to come back, I don't know. The other people standing by, coming.
He's the flag bearer of the party now. He's a leader.
But he's not going to win this election. And I don't know what his career plans are. So let's see how.
What do you mean by his career plan?
I don't know.
He's flag bearer of the NPP. He's going into the election and saying that they have done so well as NPP.
I'm certain that.
And he has listed over 30 things that he has done in the digital space.
Why doesn't he talk about the economy? The economy is what Ghanaians are interested in.
He says that digitalization is what drives
mobile phone.
He says it's what drives the economy.
No, I know the relationship between digitalization and the
Yes.
economy, but I'm saying that if the economy, the fundamentals are weak, that's what he's saying. If the fundamentals are weak, the exchange rate will expose you. That is his famous quote. And the exchange rate has exposed him repeatedly, including today.
The fact that medical deliveries are done using drones, the fact that there's mobile money interoperability, the fact that there is an address system, the fact that Ghana card is now the sole source document that we all use. These are to his credit. And he says that that's the foundation for building the country.
And I'm saying that digitalization began during our era. He's built on it. I respect that. But I'm saying that if you ask the average voter that between lower prices of goods and services in your country and digitalization, whatever that word means to them, which would you like to vote for? What do you think most people will say?
Is that what
that's the choice that is the choice many Ghanaians have to.
So for you, the election
decide.
comes down to the price of a ball of kinky.
That is what most human beings consider in their election decisions. You don't think so? Yeah, media, very well-known media personality. No, it's not a ball of cake alone.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using that literally.
And meat and chicken and eggs and cassava.
I'm using
all
that
the
to
things
represent
that people know. Clothes. Whatever people need to have a normal life. The cost of electricity, the cost of water, the cleanliness of the water. Is it the dirty water coming from the eastern and western region into Accra waters, etc.? Or if you ask people who are living near those streams that we see on TV, we are far removed from it, so we don't know the pain.
You travel to your farm. I'm sure you see the water bodies.
Yeah, fortunately, the water body near my farm is not that.
Okay, but they accuse you and your party of playing double speak on this issue of Galamsey. On one breath, you want the water bodies to be clean. In another breath, you're saying that if you come into office, all those who have been jailed for engaging in Galamsey, you free them and give them.
That is not the statement. That's the statement.
That's what former President Mahama said. Give them
not
amnesty.
All those. They will look into the cases and find if your case merits a certain, you to be released. Then that's when it applies in the cases. Because these are judicial processes. You can't just.
But you're supposed to fight
wash somebody's crime away.
If people have been jailed, you don't come to free them. You embolden those who are. Because the reason for jailing people is to deter.
No, he said,
if you're coming to free those who have been jailed.
Mama said that the people who have been jailed are mostly, not all, the minions, the small boys who do the dirty work for big anything. Boys. He's interested in the bigger boys. So wait and see what happens. Let's wait and see what happens. Whether big boys will be, arraigned before various courts, because he knows that no small person can afford a champagne machine or excavator and all these things. 500 excavator. What did they give? Were you here when 500 excavators got lost or missing?
They flew.
They flew to Burkina Faso. So 500 excavators flew under the MPP regime and have never been found. Then those BVD machines or whatever machines the Electoral Commission calls them also have gotten lost and have not been found. Till now, we are going to an election. And those machines are believed to be being used to do all kinds of funny things, including the printing of ballot papers that somebody has come on TV to.
The EC says it's a regular thing. They print excesses because of a lot of antecedents or incidental that may come up at election day.
I've been in the printing industry for a while, so I know that can happen. But it is how you take possession of the misprinted items.
They say agents stay and watch as they destroy the excesses. Well, they say that's what they do.
And a certain Mr. Japa, I think, has a certain different view on this.
Very well. So let me take a break. This is Face to Face on ChannelOne TV. When we come back, we have a newly minted Secretary General of the Commonwealth. I'll ask Ekwow Spio-Garbrah what he makes of the Honorable Shirley Ayorkor Botchwey's appointment, what it means for Ghana, and what our importance would be in the space. We are hosting the African Trade Center in Accra. What does it mean to us as a country in the global village? And of course, America goes to the polls. You're welcome back. This is Face to Face on ChannelOne Television. We have some 30 days to election 2024. What do you make of the journey towards election 2024? Are things looking good, transparent election, democratic principles being upheld? How confident are you about our election?
Well, I'm confident that Ghanaians would like to elect the person and the parties who they now know, based on experience, will do the best for them. And at this time, I believe that most Ghanaians, not all obviously, but majority of Ghanaians, more than the 50% needed to cross the threshold, will vote for John Mahama as their president and will vote for a parliamentary candidate from the NDC in most constituencies. But NDC does not, with all the best of expectations, does not expect to get more than 200, elected officials. So it's in the 170s, 180s, and 190s, depending on people's projections and how hard we all campaign between now and then. But we know that the technique of NPP generally is to use misinformation as one of the ingredients, to use money to confuse people, to buy their consciences, and then also to use the military and law enforcement and security agencies to threaten people, to move them around, and also to disqualify people using all kinds of the techniques of voter registration. 200,000 names were discovered by NDC as having been put in the wrong places in the voter register. So they may be in the register all right, but if you go to your constituency, your name is not there. Constituency, your name has been taken 500 miles away to another constituency. How will such, deliberate, obvious manipulations work well for democracy in the election period? So that's what gives us cause for some worry. But as to the fact that Ghanaians as a whole are peace-loving and, demanding of justice from their leaders, I think that's what most Ghanaians will expect, that they should be able to vote freely and fairly, be able to either go home or stay at the polling station, see to the counting of the ballot boxes, not to be intimidated. People should not come with their faces covered. So I'm hoping that the IGP and other security officials would issue instructions that those who will be given responsibility for security work during the elections should not attempt to cover their faces. And the ordinary people will have to deal with some of them if they choose to go through that method. Number two, their physical identities. They should have name tags that are big and bold on their chest and even on their back. So we know your name. Even if you have turned your back, you fired a gun in the wrong place, people should know you when you're running away. These, very small but important measures will help to prevent misbehavior. Because the thing that cockroaches don't like is for you to shine a torchlight on them. So when you know that a cockroach is going to a room and you have a torchlight, that's the end of it. So the security agencies need to be warned. But secondly, there will be a change in government, whether people like it or not. And any new government, and it will be an NDC government, will not take lightly the crimes that may have been committed or may be committed by anybody in the electioneering period. So the Election Commissioner and her staff are put on notice. The military and the law enforcement agencies are all put on notice. We want a peaceful election in Ghana, and we are going to hold everybody accountable. You see, the United States, there was this demonstration in favor of Trump afterwards. But the law grinds slowly, but they caught them up. Over 100 of them are serving various terms in jail, slowly. And without much fanfare. And that will happen in Ghana as well.
Interesting. That same night that the invasion on the capital happened, we also had our own in our House of Parliament, where soldiers entered the chamber.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we haven't seen any investigation on that matter.
Now, have we seen investigation of the 8 people who died in the earlier election?
Well, the police are handling it, so it's been
handling
dealt with
it for 8 years.
Have they
brought the faces of those who they suspect?
It's for 4 years. It's 2020, so it's for 4 years.
Is that not long enough in any police investigation?
Well, so
they have no intention to bring anybody to justice. Just as is going on right now. You know what is happening in the judiciary. You know what is happening, in the system. Many investigations never find, all the 100 cases of people doing all kinds of things, all kinds of accusations against the MPP. Very few have come to justice. And the president has almost always covered his appointees with all kinds of language, letters, emails, whatever. And the IGP and other officials don't seem to want to go where the president has told them, don't go there.
It's election night in America.
Yes, sir.
The Democrats going against the Republicans, Donald Trump coming against Kamala Harris.
Yes.
Who's your money on? As someone who's lived there before,
my money is on the peace and tranquility and prosperity of the United States, where I lived for many years, where I worked for many years, and where I have family and friends over there. So I wish them well. But in terms of the actual elections, it's very tight, it's very close. It's a surprise to many people that Donald Trump, who has been a president before, but who misconducted himself in many, many ways while he was president, should have such support. But that tells you how human beings evaluate their leaders, even in the United States. And so you would expect Kamala Harris to have been far ahead. It was good that the Democrats replaced Biden when it was obvious that he couldn't make it. And I sent out a Facebook message the very night of that debate and said, oh, Biden should step aside. And he did after a few weeks. Now, Kamala Harris is a good candidate in terms of her background and her posture and the kind of America that she wants to build, an inclusive America, not a divided America. Trump's strength, I must admit, has to be with his claim that he will make America great again, and the economic policies that he may put in place when he becomes president. And so I always have admired Trump from only one point of view, that notwithstanding his braggadocio and his, braggart type behavior, he was humble enough to go to North Korea to make peace with a potential adversary.
Yeah.
So America doesn't have to go to war. He was humble enough to be friendly.
They prevented wars from happening.
To talk to Putin in Russia, just to have peace, for America to be great again.
Yeah.
So that's a part of him that is very, encouraging. And of course, I don't agree with his anti-international organization posture. He didn't support the United Nations and the World Trade Organization and all these bodies that I have always been an internationalist for. So we have our differences. But on that part, I hope that Kamala Harris wins the election.
We are going to sign out now, but we recently had our own Foreign Affairs Minister, Ekwow, being named the Secretary General of the Commonwealth.
Yes.
We have the Africa Trade Center here in Accra. How significant do you think these two major events are going to put Ghana in the global limelight?
Well, the next government of Ghana is going to have a very, very, very big challenge in terms of how to manage the economy and how to get international support. Ghana is a very small country. In the global system. Africa as a whole is only worth 2% of global trade, global capital flows, and global anything. So if Ghana is to get out of our current financial difficulties, international financial relationships are going to be very critical. And having a friendly person, if she chooses to be friendly, which I hope she will, because first of all, a Ghanaian, I hope, before she becomes a Common Secretary General. That's Sherry Ayokobotwe, who I know quite well. And I wish her well.
Okay.
I sent a message of congratulations to her when she got elected. I think she's following some of the footsteps of those like us who have also served the Commonwealth in the past very creditably. And I'm sure she should be successful. But it requires her cooperating with what may and will turn out to be a non-NPP government in the government of Ghana under John Mahama. And all of us will be happy to work with her.
Ekwow,
if she plays her cards well.
Ekwow Spio-Garbrah, thank you so much for joining us on Face to Face.
Thank you too.
And that's how we end tonight's edition of the show. My name is Umaru, Sanda, Amadu, the Cowboy Journalist. We'll be back next week on ChannelOne TV with Face to Face. Stay with us.